When it comes to deathmatch wrestling, the ultraviolence reached new peaks in 2023, seeing several up-and-coming wrestlers stepping into that spotlight. After 12 long months of blood, sweat, and a little bit of gold, I'm here to see who stacked up to be the best deathmatch wrestler of the year. So in this video, I will be showcasing the top 15 deathmatch wrestlers from 2023 based off of performance, notable victories, tournament success rate, along with other achievements and different accomplishments. I do want to drop in a little disclaimer though, this list will not include deathmatch wrestling in Japan because I'm just not versed enough in their scene. But don't worry though, I will factor in American companies who did hold events in Japan. But it's that time, strap in folks, we have a lot to cover. Let's get the countdown started. Number 15, Dmitry Alexandrov. The Russian deathmatch Jesus may not have been on your radar throughout 2023, and that's a real shame because he has been busy dominating the scene down in the Texas territory. He competed in over 40 matches with just above a 60% win percentage, which is impressive, but then you mix in the 5 title reigns with 4 different championships, and you're probably wondering why he's only coming in at number 15. That would be the combination of taking part in only one deathmatch tournament and sadly his lack of top-rated competition. I'm not saying he faced nobodies or anything. He picked up victories over wrestlers like Dr. Redacted, Matt Locke, Brian Keith, Joey Janela, Eric Dillinger, and Casanova Valentine. He also went to war with Akira in an MLW middleweight title match, but that was one of the belts that he did fail to capture. When it comes to the one deathmatch tournament, Alexandrov entered his second death triad for WrestleRave, where he did manage to make it to the finals only to lose to Dr. Redacted. Dmitry was able to later avenge his loss to Redacted and recapture his WrestleRave Deathmatch Championship, which funny enough, he started the year with and ends the year with. In fact, he ends 2023 with 3 titles currently in his possession. So you factor in all those titles and that win percentage, I think it's safe to say Dmitry Alexandrov held down the Texas deathmatch scene in 2023. And judging by his schedule already lined up to start 2024, we may be looking at a big jump next year in these rankings. Number 14, Malcolm Monroe III. MM3 ended 2023 winning the H2O Tag Team Championships with Tommy Vendetta as the pillars, but that wouldn't be the only gold he got his hands on. Malcolm kept the ex-ICW Midwest Heavyweight title throughout the entire year, while also having a short stint as the Horror Slam Deathmatch Champion. His epic reign of 583 days as Horror Slam Heavyweight Champion came to an end in May when he lost the title to John Wayne Murdoch in a great match. This wasn't Malcolm's debut in the deathmatch scene by any means, but few can argue this was his breakout year. The level of competition ramped up in a big way, and his match against Matt Tremont at No Holds Barred Volume 51 in Detroit proved he can hang with the best in the business. MM3 also entered his most deathmatch tournaments in a single year with 4 in 2023. He made it to the finals of both Horror Slam tournaments this year, but was eliminated in the first round of Tremont's Deathmatch Tournament 4 and the third battle of the Tough Guys. Being one of the real Michigan pillars of the deathmatch scene, I predict MM3 and Tommy Vendetta make a major push as one of the top tag teams next year. And with Darren McCarty by their side, I mean, they can't fail, right? Number 13, Neil Diamond Cutter. It's cool to see that Neil is this deep into his career and he is still turning out fantastic performances. His 700 light tube death match with Matt Tremont in June ended up winning Jobber Radio's Match of the Year and will be talked about for years to come. When it comes to those deathmatch tournaments, Neil had a busy schedule, competing in 5 different tournaments and competing in 3 different countries. Though he did not manage to win any of those tournaments, he did make it to the finals in Tremont's Deathmatch Tournament 4, Slave to the Deathmatch 14, and the 2023 Dream Tournament in Australia. He also made it to the semifinals in both the Insane 8 and the Death Proof Tournament in Canada. That totals up to 12 deathmatch tournament matches, more than anybody else in this video. The only real thing Neil Diamond Cutter was lacking this year were championship belts. He did manage to take the unsanctioned Pro World Hardcore title off of Clint Margera while in the UK, but other than that, he hardly had any other title matches. I mean, he did almost win the ICW American Deathmatch title, but after a little bit of a dusty finish, Brandon Kirk left with the belt. So even after traveling the world, winning everywhere he went, one thing still remains on his bucket list that he didn't quite get to check off in 2023. That would be the crazy monkey Jun Kasai. Neil called him out all the way back in January, but we have yet to see Kasai answer that call. Hopefully we hear something next year. Number 12, Remington Roar. The carnivore Remington Roar has been moving up the ranks in the deathmatch world the past couple of years, with this year being his best yet. He kicked off the year winning the first deathmatch tournament of 2023, beating Malcolm Monroe III, Satu Jin, John Wayne Murdoch, and DBA in the finals of Horror Slam's Friday the 13th tournament in January. Get this, Roar would go on to compete in 6 additional tournaments, which is more than anybody else in this video. He won that Friday the 13th tournament. He also competed in Horror Slam's other tournament, the Murder City Deathmatch Cup 2, Circle 6's Sickest of the Six, AWR's Asylum Deathmatch Tournament 4, Wrestle Rave's Death Triad 2, RPW's King of the Kill, and ICW's Insane 8. Even with the majority of those being first round eliminations, that is 7 different deathmatch tournaments, which is just insane to think about. Looking at the championships he claimed this year, he ended 2023 the RPW Kamikaze Champion after beating Schwartzy, the AWR Revolutionary Champion after taking it off of Mickey Knuckles, and the Flophouse Champion after beating Danny DeMonto on his birthday. Oh, and he did hold the Horror Slam Deathmatch title, but that was like for 5 minutes. Right after he won the Friday the 13th tournament, Satu Jin took it from him immediately. So yeah, without a doubt, this was a year to remember for Roar, but his overall losing record and lack of wins over some of the higher ranked wrestlers pulls him down to number 12. Number 11, Tommy Vendetta. The lovable psychopath Thomas Oliver Vendetta had quite a busy 2023, walking away with just more wins than losses, and that's with over 70 matches on the year, so that says a lot. Now, Tommy has seen success before in his career, but when it comes to the titles, the quality of wins, and even his first deathmatch tournament victory, all of that pushes him up to the next level. He won RPW's first annual King of the Kill tournament, snagging wins over Remington Roar, Joel Bateman, and Dr. Redacted. Looking back, 2023 also happens to be Tommy's most active deathmatch tournament year, as he entered SPO's Battle of the Tough Guys, Tremont's Deathmatch Tournament 4, Horror Slam's Murder City Deathmatch Cup 2, and Circle 6's Sickest of the Six as a surprise 7th entrant. When it comes to championships, Tommy did not disappoint in that category either. He ended the year holding 4 different title belts. The XICW Extreme Intense Championship was in his possession all year as he moves closer to that 600-day mark as champion. Speaking of long reigns, he beat Randy West in October to win the RPW Rust Belt title, ending her run at 595 days. He defeated Dread King Logan, Devin Riker, and Sami Callihan to become the 2nd Chaos Heavyweight Champion. And last but not least, him and Malcolm Monroe III captured the H2O Tag Team titles just days before 2024. I already mentioned his quality of opponents stepped up in 2023. Now, if Vendetta can turn a lot of those matches into wins next year, look out, because he could find himself as one of the top players in the deathmatch scene. Number 10, Big Effin' Joe. The international whitey-tighty sensation Big Effin' Joe crushed it in 2023, losing only 2 matches on US soil. Don't let his 56% win percentage fool you. When it comes to matches with the United States companies, that number jumps up to 81.2%. Joe started the year out having a fantastic match with Drake Younger and XPW. He was one of the highlights during ICW No Holds Barred's tour of the UK with Rise Underground. For better or worse, he was part of one of the biggest stories in the deathmatch wrestling scene, where he and the Body found a, let's just say, unique way to implement a syringe. He went 3-1 in GCW, pulling out some impressive wins over names like Jimmy Lloyd, Masha Slamovich, Rina Yamashita, and Sawyer Wreck. Then came his biggest accomplishment in the United States this year, taking home the CZW Tournament of Death 20 trophy. He saw more tournament action when he made it to the semifinals of XPW's King of the Deathmatches tournament, and then we have to talk about his highlight back home after defeating Cole Radrick to win the 2023 DOA tournament for TNT Extreme Wrestling. While Joe didn't hold any championship gold in the United States, he did take down Clint Margera to become the TNT Extreme Division Champion. He also began the year holding both the Rise European Deathmatch title and the KCW Death Wolf title. That's not too bad, snagging 3 of the top deathmatch titles in the UK. Looking back at all of these wins and accomplishments, there was a lot for Big F and Joe to be proud of in 2023. Number 9, Brandon Kirk. I don't think anyone involved in the deathmatch world had a stronger first half year than Brandon Kirk did. He walked into 2023 a double champion, holding both the ICW American Deathmatch title and the H2O Danny Havoc Hardcore title. He also carried a lot of fan support at the beginning, but he kind of threw that out the window when he and Casey beat Akira down, cheating him out of a fair title shot. From that point on, Brandon and Casey both became the top heels in the entire deathmatch scene. He would go on to also screw over Neil Diamond Cutter, who thought he won the title. He tried to slash Hoodfoot's throat, but after Cruel kidnapped Casey, Brandon lost his American Deathmatch title. That's when the Kirks turned their full attention towards Cruel, who they have a long history with, and in fact, their issues landed them the Jobber Radio Rivalry of the Year award. I feel like we do need to acknowledge how dominant Brandon was during ICW's UK tour in February. That's where he went 4-0, defending both of his titles. Yes, Brandon did end up with a losing record this year, which is why he kind of fell down into that number 9 spot, but his strong title runs, a great showing in the Battle of the Tough Guys tournament, getting to the semifinals, and a very, very strong quality of competition earns him this position. To be honest, if he didn't struggle so much in that second half of the year, his wins in matches against John Wayne Murdoch, Lou Nixon, Jimmy Lloyd, the Kogar brothers, Colby Carino, Tommy Vendetta, Big F and Joe, Cruel, Hoodfoot, Akira, Bam Sullivan, and even Matt Cardona, those may have pushed him a little bit closer towards that top 5 spot. Number 8, Mickey Knuckles. This run that Mickey's on right now is something really special. For the second time in 3 years, Mickey Knuckles won 2 deathmatch tournaments in the same year. The only difference about this year is she won them in back-to-back months. In September, she took down JD Horror, Neil Diamond Cutter, and Satu Jin in the finals to win the Slave to the Deathmatch 14. In October, she beat Neil Diamond Cutter again, as well as Declan Grant and Lucky 13 to win the H2O Tremont's Deathmatch Tournament 4. And get this, she competed in 3 other tournaments, making it to the finals, back-to-back years by the way, in CZW's Tournament of Death 20, losing to Big F and Joe, then took a loss to Sawyer Wreck in the finals of the Angels of Death tournament for H2O. Now, while she didn't make it out of the first round in the Insane 8 tournament this year, that is 4 out of 5 deathmatch tournaments that she entered and competed in the final round. When we jump over and look at championships, her AWR Revolutionary title run of 364 days ended in July when she lost the title to Remington Roar. But she did gain another title in November when she beat Lou Dark Shaitan to become the XPW Women's Champion. Even if you throw out all those tournaments she competed in, take out all of those title matches, Mickey still put on memorable matches with each top wrestler out there, and I'm talking Reed Bentley, John Wayne Murdoch, Dr. Redacted, Dmitry Alexandrov, Tank, Schwartzy, Tommy Vendetta, Hoodfoot, Nate Webb, Jeff Cannonball, and we even got an epic rematch between 2 pioneers when she fought Lufisto in March. Oh, and even though Tessa Blanchard is not known for her hardcore style, Mickey Knuckles even had a damn good match with her in XPW. So yeah, needless to say, this was yet another great year for the first ballot Hall of Famer. Number 7, Dr. Redacted. Few wrestlers on the entire independent scene can even come close to matching the intensity of the Murder Surgeon. Dr. Redacted took home multiple Jobber Radio End-of-Year awards, including Breakout Wrestler of the Year and Tournament Performance of the Year for his King of the Kill showing in RPW. Sure, his winning record doesn't look phenomenal, but you have to look at who he faced this early on in his career. I mean, it's crazy to think about, but Redacted lost 11 of his 15 appearances for ICW No Holds Barred, but when you face Bobby Beverly, Danny DeMonto, Danny Darko, Tank, John Wayne Murdoch, Eric Ryan, Cruel twice, and Hoodfoot twice, you're gonna have some issues there. I'm sorry to rattle off another list of names for you, but it's insane to think about all of those matchups, and that was just in one company, because I should also mention his great main event at RPW Street Trash against Matt Tremont. Even with all of those losses, Dr. Redacted achieved a heck of a lot this year and was very in demand. He competed in Circle 6's King of the Deathmatch tournament. He made it to the finals of RPW's King of the Kill, where he won that award for his overall performance. Then he won one of the longest running tournaments by beating Mr. Insane 8 himself, or Invite, in the finals to become the 11th Insane 8 winner. In April, he would win the second Death Triad tournament for WrestleRave, where he defended his WrestleRave Deathmatch title in each round. There haven't been that many wrestlers to enter the deathmatch world gaining this much momentum this fast, at least that I can remember. He won the fans and several major wrestlers' approval in the deathmatch scene this year, so with some more victories, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him crack into that top 5 in 2024. Number 6, Bobby Beverly. It's kind of hard to believe, but as the Bev closes out his 17th year in the business, he may have just turned in one of his best bodies of work yet. He unified Paradigm Pro Wrestling's world title, Brass Knuckles title, and the North Atlantic Commonwealth Heritage title to form the Triple Crown Championship, a title that he still has in his possession. When it comes to straight up deathmatch championships though, he came up short in his only 2 chances. Even though title opportunities seemed to elude him in 2023, he still put on some of the best death matches you will see all year. If you missed his Match of the Year candidate Clockwork Orange House of Doom match against Matthew Justice, his 2 brutal matches with Dr. Redacted in the summer, his show stealer of a match against Matt Tremont in ICW, in that unforgettable ultra-violent Kumite match against Akira, you missed out on some of the best death matches of the year. The reputation as the full-time tournament runner-up is out the window because the Bev picked up a major trophy at the end of the year when he won the 2023 King of the Death Matches, the tournament that ended up winning Jobber Radio's Tournament of the Year, by the way. Bobby did come close to winning back-to-back Tournament of Deaths when he made it to the finals of TOD 20, but couldn't get past Big F and Joe. He also took part in Horror Slam's Friday the 13th tournament, where he was eliminated by the world champ, Malcolm Monroe III. Over the past several years, Bobby Beverly has been silently marching his way up the rankings of the best deathmatch wrestlers on the planet, and this year, he took one step closer. Number 5, John Wayne Murdoch. Last year's top-ranked deathmatch wrestler has fallen down to this number 5 spot in 2023, but it's not because of his lack of great matches. To be honest, as we go through this list, you will find very few wrestlers who are as consistent and reliable when it comes to putting on that match of the night than John Wayne Murdoch is. The only reason Murdoch slipped this year is his lack of accomplishments. You know, in a weird way, it seemed like 2023 was his year of putting everyone over and solidifying them in the deathmatch scene. He even out-wrestled everyone on this list with 76 matches on the year. Throwing some more numbers your way, he took part in 5 deathmatch tournaments, putting in 11 matches total. He made it to the finals in 4 of those 5 tournaments, including both GCW's Tournament of Survival, where he lost to Rina Yamashita, and GCW's Nick Gage Invitational, where he lost to Muedo Extremo. He was eliminated by Dominic Garini in the second Bill Alfonso Hardcore Tournament Finals, and admittedly, Murdoch weaseled his way into the Friday the 13th Tournament Finals for Horror Slam after he lost in the first round. The only time that he did not compete in that final round was for Horror Slam's Murder City Deathmatch Cup 2. Speaking of Horror Slam, the only titles Murdoch held this year came from them. He lost the Deathmatch title in his first defense of the year against DBA. Then later in May, he defeated Malcolm Monroe III to become the Horror Slam World Champion, but was stripped without a single title defense. Even with very few of these accomplishments on the year, John Wayne Murdoch still remains one of, if not the best deathmatch wrestlers from bell to bell. After all, he was the man to defeat Drew Parker in his last ever death match in the United States. So I cannot stress this enough. I don't believe anyone topped Murdoch's match performances this year, but his lack of wins eventually came back to bite him in the end. Number 4, Matt Tremont. What if I was to tell you, statistically speaking, this was the second best year on record for the deathmatch living legend? Winning the IWTV Independent World title at the end of 2022 really helped kickstart what would be a fantastic year for Tremont. He would go on to defend that title successfully 10 times over 8 months, really showing his range as he mixed in his deathmatch style with some of his opponents' more traditional style. I believe by now everyone watching this knows Matt Tremont is the most decorated wrestler when it comes to deathmatch tournaments, but this year wasn't his best showing in that category. He competed in GCW's Tournament of Survival, where he lost to John Wayne Murdoch in the opening round. He also took a shocking first round loss to Jaden Newman in ICW No Holds Barred's Battle of the Tough Guys 3. Now, he did find more success in AWR as he made it to the finals of the 4th Asylum Deathmatch tournament, where he lost to Hoodfoot. So even though the Bulldozer didn't quite check off every single box this year, he more than made up for it with his matches. He main evented all across the independent scene. I'm talking GCW, RPW, ICW No Holds Barred, Bloodstorm Pro, AWR, DPW, and Beyond Wrestling, oftentimes walking out with the victory. Even though Tremont only won one singles match for GCW this year, he still turned in top-notch performances against Violento Jack, Madman Pondo, John Wayne Murdoch, El Desperado, Los Macizos, and that dream rematch from CZW nearly a decade ago that we got between him and Jun Kasai. On top of all that, he even took part in a highly entertaining IWTV cinematic match with Cruel, where he was eventually slammed into a grave and burned alive. If you missed the death of on IWTV, you need to go check it out. But that cinematic match killed off the Bulldozer Matt Tremont we knew, and soon introduced us to the Killdozer, who finished off the year terrorizing everyone he came in contact with. 2023 was a wild ride for Matt Tremont, and I feel like I'm still missing out on a ton of stuff, so just know this: as he closes out his 12th year in professional wrestling, he is firing on all cylinders. Number 3, Shlak. The human meat grinder's dominance was on full display in 2023 as he quite literally crushed his competition. He worked primarily for XPW this year, and look at that win percentage. That is not a typo. Shlak won 80% of his matches all year long. It shouldn't come as a surprise that his only title wins come from XPW as well, as he held the King of the Deathmatch Championship the entire year, defending it 9 times against some stiff competition like the Necro Butcher, John Wayne Murdoch, Drake Younger, Lou Nixon, The Body, Homeless Jimmy, Kit Osborne, and Atticus Kogar. Solidifying himself as the face of XPW, he defeated Alex Colon to become a double champion, winning the XPW World title in September. Just to drive home how dominant Shlak was this year, he only lost one one-on-one match all year long. That was against Joel Bateman in RPW, and that only came after Judge Joe Dredd interfered, taking Shlak backstage to award the win to Bateman by forfeit. Looking back at the other losses in his multi-person matches, Shlak was never pinned or submitted all year long. That's just nuts to think about. That loss to Bateman, by the way, eliminated him from the King of the Kill tournament. He lost in the second round of Horror Slam's Murder City Deathmatch Cup, and he made it to the finals of CZW's Tournament of Death 20, where Big F and Joe took the win. So yeah, even though he failed to win all 3 of those tournaments, he never took the fall. Shlak did have one of the lightest workloads in his career, competing in only 20 matches in 2023, but when you combine his unique looks and intensity, he still comes off as one of the most believable deathmatch wrestlers going today. Each and every match, you know someone has a high likelihood of dying, and what more could you ask for out of one of your top deathmatch wrestlers of the year? Number 2, Rina Yamashita. I want you to keep in mind, putting Rina at number 2 was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make for Jobber Radio. As you can see, Rina's win percentage outside of Japan was nearly perfection, as she worked almost exclusively for GCW. Throughout the entire year, she did not lose a single one-on-one contest. Again, keep in mind, we are excluding her work in Japan here. The only time she even came close to losing was during the Cage of Survival match, where she fought Masha Slamovich for the GCW World title, but Blake Christian cashed in his title shot at the end of the match to steal that win. To close out 2023, Rina still holds the GCW Ultraviolence Championship, a title she won back in August of 2022. That's right, she is closing in on 600 days as champion after defending the title 13 times this year alone in some of the best death matches all year. Highlighting some of those top title defenses, they were against opponents like Casey Kirk, Jimmy Lloyd twice, Violento Jack, Takashi Sasaki, Emerson Jane, Lou Nixon, Masha Slamovich, plus many other tough opponents. I also want to point out, looking back, she defended this title in 5 different countries. So not only is Rina more than likely on one of the greatest ultraviolent title runs there will ever be, she ended up winning the 8th Tournament of Survival this year. She bested Sawyer Wreck and Casey Kirk in the opening round, barely made it through Toru Segura in the second, and laid waste to John Wayne Murdoch in the finals to finally claim the trophy. When it comes to accomplishments this year, Rina focused more on quality over quantity. A lot of fans will argue that the Tournament of Survival in GCW's ultraviolent title are some of the highest sought-after achievements in the scene, and she dominated both. I believe another big plus for Rina is her ability to tell a great underdog story in her matches. Just when you think she's down, she fires herself up to make a major comeback, and telling those stories really helps make her stand out from the pack. She really did do it all this year and could just as easily took that top spot, but like I said, this was not an easy decision. Before we get to that number 1 spot, let's take a quick look at 4 honorable mentions. The dirty white boy Chuck Stein just missed out on the top 15, but still reeled in quite the year. In one of his most active years in the business, the Deathmatch veteran scored his 2nd Deathmatch tournament win after pinning Malcolm Monroe III in the finals of Horror Slam's Murder City Deathmatch Cup 2. In that same match, he won the Horror Slam Deathmatch Championship for a record 5th time. He would go on to defend that title the rest of the year, and he finished 2023 still the champ. Now, Chuck also did take part in Horror Slam's other deathmatch tournament back in January, where he suffered a loss in the first round to Malcolm, so in the end, I guess it looks like he got the last laugh. Chuck was also eliminated in the first round when he competed in Primo's Slave to the Deathmatch 14. When you look back at the opponents he faced, there were several big names in the deathmatch scene, but unfortunately he came up short the majority of the time, so that kept him off the list this year. Either way though, he accomplished quite a bit, and I believe 2023 was for sure a bright spot for Chuck Stein. Akira was so incredibly close to making this list, but his lack of deathmatch championships and ending the year with a losing record has him just missing out. His year will go down as a memorable one for sure, with solid matches against guys like Matt Tremont, Eric Dillinger, Jimmy Lloyd, the Second Gear Crew, 440, and Crowbar even. I think I have to say some of Akira's best deathmatch work this year came from Circle 6, where he won the only deathmatch tournament he took part in, the highly touted Sickest of the Six tournament. I mean, he beat Oren Veidt, Tommy Vendetta, and Dale Patricks all in one night. Kind of a big deal. Akira would also go on to sign with MLW, where he joined up with The Calling for more memorable hardcore moments as well. All that said, there is no doubt in my mind Akira has the skills to be a top-tier player in the deathmatch world going forward. To kick off 2023, Sawyer Wreck was looking primed to have a monster year. She won H2O's Tremont's Angels of Death tournament. She had good matches with Bam Sullivan, Los Macisos, John Wayne Murdoch, One Called Manders, Charles Mason, Pero, and several other wrestlers from Freedoms and TJPW. The wins and solid matches, they were all there, but Sawyer's 2023 ventured off the deathmatch path far too much for her to make the list this year. And that's not a bad thing by any means. She had a great year in the business. It just didn't quite make the cut when it comes to the top 15 deathmatch wrestlers. Championship gold eluded Wreck again in 2023, but that won't last forever. We all know what Sawyer is capable of, and it's exciting to think about what she is going to achieve next year. Atticus Kogar had a roller coaster year in 2023. He came in as the Circle 6 World Champion, but lost it early on to Zachary Wentz. He came in and technically still is the No Peace Underground World Champion, but I have no clue what their status is since they kind of stopped holding shows since March. He took part in Circle 6's rebirth of the King of the Death Matches tournament, making it all the way to the final round where he lost to 440 member Bobby Beverly. But then the bright spot, we had Kogar's biggest contribution to the deathmatch scene in 2023, his rivalries. Atticus showed up in XPW to feud with Schlack. He started trouble with Matt Tremont. He had issues with Zachary Wentz. He took part in bringing Ricky Shane Page back to the deathmatch scene. Then in probably his biggest rivalry of the year, he butted heads with ICW No Holds Barred owner Danny DeMonto. As awesome and memorable as all of those things were, when the feuds all came to their climax, he found himself on the losing end. Turn one, maybe two of those feuds into big wins, and more than likely, Atticus makes the top 15. Oh, and I don't want to overlook the barn burner of a match Kogar and Casanova Valentine had back at Murder Mania in March. They absolutely killed it. And number one, Hoodfoot. I believe the best deathmatch wrestler of 2023 was Hoodfoot Mo Atlas. He really did it all this year. We're talking multiple championships. He had multiple deathmatch tournament wins, a high win rate, and on top of that, he fought a who's who of talent. First things first though, you cannot talk about Hoodfoot's 2023 without talking about his historic ICW American Deathmatch title reign. He ends the year with the belt still in his possession as he already has the record for the longest reign in most defenses with, listen to this, 18 successful title defenses. He had that title for 9 months this year. That means he averaged 2 title defenses each month. That's wild to think about. During this epic reign, he beat almost everyone under the sun. Dr. Redacted twice, John Wayne Murdoch twice, Satu Jin, Kaplan, Reed Bentley, Cruel, Tank, Abdullah Kobayashi, Bojack, Christian Ross, Bobby Beverly, Tommy Vendetta, Lowlife Louie, Randy West, Brandon Kirk, Pagano, Mickey Knuckles, and Jaden Newman. Yeah, that's a lot. And on top of that, Hoodfoot ends the year as the RPW World Champion after he took it off Sam Beal in October. It's extremely difficult to win back-to-back tournaments, but Hoodfoot did just that by winning ICW No Holds Barred Battle of the Tough Guys yet again, taking out Bojack in the first round, Christian Ross in the second, Kaplan in the semifinals, and then Jaden Newman in the finals. That wouldn't be all for Hoodfoot, as he would go on to win AWR's 4th Asylum Deathmatch tournament, beating Dale Patricks, Brad Cash, and Matt Tremont in the finals. Hoodfoot also made it to the finals of Wrestle Rave's Death Triad 2, where he was eliminated by Dmitry Alexandrov under a, let's just say, controversial 3 count. And he also took part in RPW's first annual King of the Kill, beating Judge Joe Dredd in the opening round, but was upset by Dr. Redacted in the semifinals after a low blow. So that's 4 deathmatch tournaments with strong showings in each and every one. Hoodfoot fought in over 60 matches this year for just about every top deathmatch company, taking down main eventers, Hall of Famers, plus overseas legends. He has been fighting and clawing his way up that ladder in the deathmatch world for years now, but in 2023, it is nice to see that he has finally made it to the top. And there you have it, folks, my top 15 deathmatch wrestlers of 2023. But now I want to hear from you. Who do you have ranked as the best of the year? Keep in mind, everybody, lists like this are just my opinion and also just for fun, so don't let that ruin your day. I honestly probably could have flipped a coin between the number 1 and 2 spots. If we were factoring Rina's work in Japan, things may have turned out different, who knows? What I do know is there are a ton of wrestlers that didn't quite make the video, but I do hope to talk about them in next year's rankings. No, seriously, I would love to add people like Otis Kogar, Cruel, Casey Kirk, Casanova Valentine, Eric Dillinger, Dale Patricks, Eric Ryan, Alex Stretch, Mance Warner, Judge Joe Dredd, and many, many more out there, but I had to make the tough decisions on who made it and who didn't. Real quick, I want to thank all of the companies and promoters out there who have held so many of these amazing events. And most of all, I want to thank the wrestlers who go out there and just beat the ever-loving hell out of each other for our entertainment. That is never lost on me, and just thank you so very much. And for those of you out there who have watched all the way through to the end here, thank you as well. In the meantime, support independent wrestling, support deathmatch wrestling. Don't be a dick. Don't be a pirate. Pay the people who work hard to do what we all love. Thank you.